I stare at the screen, again. The three little dots appear like they're about to become a reply, then vanish. It's been months now. Messages, voice notes, emails. Not a single reply. Not even a seen anymore. Just silence. My heart clenches, the kind of ache that doesn't go away with time. I keep scrolling through our old photos, searching for something, anything, maybe a smile I missed, a sign I never appreciated, a moment I took for granted. But all I see is the man I once loved more than anything, the man I left behind. It doesn't feel real sometimes. That I walked away from him. That I thought I could do better. That I believed the world had more to offer me now that I was finally hot. God, how shallow that sounds now. Back then, I told myself I deserved more excitement, more passion, more attention. I had spent years feeling invisible, fighting my reflection, hiding in loose clothes and low self-worth. He was always there, steady and patient, holding my hand through every insecurity. But when I shed the weight and the doubt, something twisted inside me. I began to believe the lie whispered by compliments and flirty DMs, that I was meant for someone more impressive. I traded comfort for chaos. Love for lust. Loyalty for longing. And now, I'm here. Alone, confused, and full of regrets that scream louder than my silent phone ever could. Why won't he answer me? Just one reply. One message. One chance to explain, to tell him I was wrong. That I see now, how much he meant, how much he still means. But I know deep down, he doesn't owe me that. I left him. I wounded him. And maybe, just maybe, he's finally learned to live without me. The cruel irony. I became everything I thought I wanted to be, only to lose the one person who loved me before I even believed I was worth loving. And that is a pain no makeover can fix. There was a time I couldn't look in the mirror without wincing. I used to avoid reflections in windows, skipped group photos, and refused to buy anything but oversized sweaters that hid my body. I was overweight, insecure, and convinced that I was invisible to the world. At work, people spoke over me. In social settings, I was the afterthought, the quiet one in the corner. But not to him. From the very beginning, my husband saw me. Truly saw me. He didn't flinch when I cried over how I looked or when I turned off the lights during intimacy. He never mocked my self-deprecating humor, never made me feel less than. He called me beautiful before I ever believed it. I still remember the way he brushed the hair from my face when I was upset, or how he'd kiss my forehead when I spiraled into self-loathing. "You're more than what you see," he'd whisper. And somehow, even when I didn't believe it, those words would wrap around me like a blanket. Our life wasn't glamorous, but it was ours. Simple. Genuine. We had our quiet routines, homemade pasta on Sundays, movie nights with too much popcorn, slow mornings where he'd make me coffee just the way I liked it, sweet, with a splash of vanilla oat milk. He worked hard, too. Sometimes 12-hour shifts, sometimes weekends, all to make sure I didn't have to stress about bills or medical appointments. And even when he came home exhausted, he still found ways to show me I mattered. A handwritten note in my lunch. A spontaneous bouquet of my favorite flowers. A surprise weekend getaway when he noticed I hadn't smiled in weeks. He was the kind of man who listened without interrupting, loved without condition, and gave without ever keeping score. And yet, back then, I couldn't see it fully. I was so trapped in my own reflection, in the heaviness of my own self-hate, that I missed just how deeply he was holding me up. He was the one steady thing in a life I constantly questioned. Sometimes I think about those nights he'd rub my back as I fell asleep, or the mornings he'd tuck the blanket around my shoulders before leaving for work. They weren't grand gestures, but they were filled with love. The kind of love you don't appreciate until it's gone. He saw the beauty in me when I was blind to it. And I repaid him by walking away once I started to see it for myself. It started innocently enough. A new year, a new resolution. I wanted to feel better in my body, to stop hiding from cameras and my own reflection. So I changed my diet, started going on daily walks, and slowly built up to workouts that left me breathless but proud. I started reading about mental wellness, journaling, meditating, trying to become the version of myself I always dreamed of being. It was slow at first. The scale didn't move much. The soreness lingered. But over time, things began to shift. My clothes fit differently. My face looked brighter. People at work started noticing, asking if I'd lost weight, complimenting my glow. I posted a few progress photos online, and the likes poured in. DMs, friend requests, flirtatious comments from guys I never imagined would look my way. And for the first time in my life, I felt wanted. Not just tolerated or accepted, but seen, admired, even. The attention was addictive. I had lived so long in the shadows of my own doubt that when the spotlight finally touched me, I basked in it. With every drop of sweat, I felt more powerful. More worthy. My confidence grew, but so did something darker. A voice in the back of my mind that whispered, "You could do better than him." That voice didn't come from nowhere. It was fed, nurtured. At work, some coworkers would joke, "You're turning into a total baddie now. I bet your man can't keep up." Others would say it more bluntly, "You're outgrowing him. He's sweet, but you're hot now. You need someone who matches your energy." At first, I'd defend him. He's always been there for me. He supported me through everything. But those words began to sound hollow even to my own ears. Especially when I started comparing him, his modest clothes, his quiet demeanor, his simple life, to the polished men who now filled my inbox with compliments and smooth talk. I started seeing flaws I had never noticed before. His routines felt boring. His predictability, once comforting, now felt dull. I wanted spontaneity, excitement, luxury. I began thinking that maybe I had settled too early, before I ever really knew who I could be. And worst of all, I began to believe that my new body, my new confidence, somehow meant I deserved more. I mistook transformation for transcendence. I thought I was evolving, but in truth, I was inflating, drifting away from the grounded love that had held me steady for so long. Looking back, it wasn't the glow-up that changed me. It was the illusion that came with it, the belief that beauty meant superiority. And that belief would cost me everything. It didn't happen all at once, but the distance between us grew like a crack in the foundation, small at first, almost invisible, until one day, everything collapsed. I started to resent the silence between us. The way he'd come home after a long day and sit beside me on the couch without saying much, just watching me with gentle eyes. I used to love that about him, his calm presence, his quiet strength. But now, it felt suffocating. Predictable. Dull. He never changed. That was the problem. I had transformed, but he stayed the same man who kissed me before work and offered to rub my feet at night. A man who still called me his girl with the same affection he had when I was 40 pounds heavier and hiding in his hoodie. But I didn't want to be his girl anymore. I wanted to be the girl. The one who walked into a room and turned heads. The one who deserved more than casseroles and Netflix reruns and quiet nights. The men who flirted with me now were confident, charismatic, successful. They drove expensive cars, made bold jokes, lived spontaneous lives. And suddenly, the man who once made me feel safe began to feel like an anchor, holding me back from the exciting, adventurous future I thought I could have. I started picking fights. Over nothing, really. The way he folded the laundry, the fact that he wore the same old sneakers, how he still used coupons at the grocery store. I became irritated by the things that once made me smile. I felt trapped in a life that no longer matched the image I had of myself. Then came the night it all shattered. We were arguing, again. He had come home with dinner from my favorite restaurant, just trying to do something nice, but I snapped. I accused him of not understanding me, of not growing with me. I feel stuck, I told him. Like I'm living a life that doesn't fit me anymore. I want more than this. I deserve more. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't fight back. He just stood there, holding that bag of takeout, his eyes filled with something worse than anger, hurt. He looked at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I already was. You used to love this life, he said quietly. You used to love me. And I did. Once. But that night, I packed a bag. I told him I needed space, that I needed to figure out who I really was. He didn't chase me. He didn't beg. He just nodded slowly, tears brimming in his eyes, and whispered, "If this is what you need, I won't stop you." I walked out the door with my head high and my heart thudding with something that felt like freedom. I told myself I was stepping into a new chapter, one filled with possibility and passion. What I didn't realize was that I was also walking away from the only person who had ever loved me without condition. And in his quiet goodbye, he broke me in ways I wouldn't understand until much later. In the beginning, it felt like I had made the right choice. The attention came quickly and effortlessly. Men I once thought were out of my league were now sliding into my DMs, offering dinners, gifts, weekends away. I'd walk into a room and feel eyes on me, compliments pouring in like music I never got tired of hearing. I remember thinking, this is it. This is what I was missing. I dated a lawyer first, tall, confident, sharply dressed. He took me to rooftop bars and wine tastings, showed me off like a new accessory. At first, I felt wanted, adored. But the charm wore off fast. He talked more about himself than anything else, barely listened when I spoke. He forgot my birthday. He made jokes about my body that were meant to be flattering but left me feeling cheap. Then came the entrepreneur. Drove a luxury car, had a condo with a skyline view. He loved my figure, always made it known, especially in public. He posted selfies with me and captioned them with fire emojis and heart eyes, but never once asked how my day was. I found out he was sleeping with 2 other women the same time he was with me. Another man I dated took me to an expensive resort for a weekend getaway. I thought maybe this was different, more effort, more substance. But by the second night, he was pressuring me to be someone I wasn't, pushing boundaries, making me feel like I owed him something just for being there. Over time, the pattern became painfully clear. They didn't see me, they saw what I looked like. A body, a pretty face, a status symbol. Not a partner. Not a soul. Just a temporary thrill. I started to feel used. Not loved. Not even liked. Just consumed, like something shiny they could pick up, admire, then toss aside when the novelty wore off. And in the quiet moments, those lonely nights after another disappointing date or unanswered message, I found myself thinking about him. My ex-husband. The man who never made me feel like I had to earn love. Who held my hand when I cried over stretch marks. Who looked at me like I was enough even on my worst days. None of these new men held a candle to him. They brought flowers, but never peace. Compliments, but never understanding. Passion, but never depth. What I once thought was boring about him, his consistency, his calm, his comfort, I now craved more than anything. I missed his sleepy good mornings, his warm meals, the way he listened without judgment. I had searched for excitement and found emptiness. And slowly, the glow I had chased began to dim, because what's the point of shining when no one truly sees you? It's the little things that hit the hardest. A song playing in a coffee shop, the one we used to dance to in the kitchen, barefoot and laughing, flour on our clothes from making pancakes. His favorite cologne lingers on a stranger in the grocery store, and suddenly I'm transported to a Sunday morning when he hugged me from behind, whispering, "You smell like home." I pass our old spot, the park bench near the bookstore where we'd sit and share pastries, trading bites like teenagers in love. One day, I worked up the nerve to go inside that bookstore again. I barely made it to the second aisle before the tears came. There are days I sit in my car outside our favorite restaurant, just staring at the door, remembering how he always let me choose the appetizer, even when I picked the same one every time. He'd smile, call me predictable, and squeeze my hand like it was our own little tradition. One night I found an old photo tucked in the back of a drawer, us on the couch, tangled in a blanket, his eyes looking at me like I was the only woman in the world. I cried for hours, clutching that photo like it could somehow rewind time. I see his face in dreams. I hear his laugh in crowds. I feel his absence in the spaces he used to fill, the bed that's too cold, the quiet that's too loud. The way he used to make my coffee just right, 2 sugars, a splash of vanilla oat milk, stirred with that little spoon he claimed was lucky. No one else remembers how I like it. No one else tries. And when I cry now, no one holds me the way he did. No one says, "You're not broken, you're just tired." I thought I lost a husband. A partner. A phase of my life. But the truth is, I lost my person. The one who loved me before I even knew how to love myself. The one who never made me feel like I had to change to be enough. The one I left behind in search of more, only to realize he was everything. Now, all I have left are memories, and the ache of knowing I traded gold for glitter. It started with a simple message, just, "Hey, can we talk?" I stared at the screen for minutes before hitting send. My heart raced, hands trembling, as if I was confessing a crime. In many ways, I was. I had betrayed the man who loved me most, and now I was begging for a window back into his life. No reply. But the message was marked "Read." That small gray word haunted me. He saw it, but chose not to respond. So I sent another. A longer one. A full paragraph. Then 2. Voice notes came next, raw, unfiltered, tearful. Apologies. Memories. Confessions. I poured my heart out, hoping that if I could just remind him of who we used to be, maybe he'd find it in his heart to give me one more chance. But the silence never broke. I called, once, then twice. Left a voicemail, shaky and desperate, my voice cracking as I said, "I miss you. I'm sorry. Please, talk to me." Still nothing. I started showing up at places we used to go. The coffee shop where he used to write. The park bench near the bookstore. Our old grocery store. I half hoped to see him, half feared what I might find. Eventually, I asked a mutual friend, casually, carefully, how he was. "He's doing okay," she said gently. "He's moved on. He's healing. He's seeing someone, I think." Her words gutted me. Not because I didn't want him to be happy, but because I realized that he was no longer waiting. The door I had closed wasn't just locked now, it was gone. Replaced by a new life, one where I no longer belonged. The devastation was unlike anything I had felt before. When I left him, I thought I'd always have a way back. That his love, so steady and unconditional, would be my safety net if I ever changed my mind. But I had broken something in him. And while I had been chasing attention, he had been learning how to let go. The finality of it all hit me like a slow-moving storm, devastating in its silence. He read my messages, but didn't reply. He heard my voice, but chose not to answer. He had loved me, but now, he didn't need me. And for the first time, I understood what it meant to lose something you can never get back. There's a silence that settles in your soul when you know you've become the villain in your own story. I live with that silence now. The guilt is relentless, gnawing at the edges of every waking thought. I replay our last moments over and over, hoping to rewrite them in my mind. But the truth remains, I hurt the only person who ever saw me fully and loved me anyway. I didn't just leave him, I dismantled the home we built together, brick by brick, blinded by vanity and noise. Depression crept in slowly, then all at once. I lost interest in everything that once brought me joy. Food lost its flavor. Music became unbearable. Even the mirror, once my prized reflection, now showed me someone I didn't recognize. Someone hollow. Someone broken. For so long, I sought approval from others. I mistook compliments for connection, attention for affection. I let the world convince me that beauty was currency, that my worth increased with every like, every glance, every flirtatious message. But those things were fleeting. They filled the surface and starved the soul. It wasn't just my body that changed. It was my heart. My values. I became so focused on becoming someone that I forgot who I truly was. And now, with nothing left to chase, I'm forced to sit in the wreckage of what I destroyed. The hardest truth. He owes me nothing. No response. No second chance. Not even closure. I had it all, and I walked away. At first, I hoped redemption would come from winning him back. That if he forgave me, I could forgive myself. But now I understand, forgiveness has to start within. I have to face who I became, and choose to become someone different. I will never forget what I lost. And I will always carry the weight of that choice. But maybe, just maybe, the pain can become purpose. Maybe the lessons can anchor me, reshape me, not into the woman I thought I had to be, but into someone worthy of peace, even without him. Healing won't come quickly. And it may never come completely. But it starts with this. Owning what I did. Acknowledging who I hurt. And choosing, every day, not to make the same mistake again. This is the cost of clarity. This is the price of growth. Looking back now, the path I took seems so clear, and yet, so painfully tangled in mistakes. I grew, yes. I became stronger, wiser, more aware of who I am beneath the surface. But the price of that growth was higher than I ever imagined. It cost me the man who loved me most, the one who stood by me when I was at my lowest, who never asked me to change, who loved me for all my imperfections. There is a deep ache in that loss, a hollow space that no amount of new faces or fleeting attention can fill. Regret has become my constant companion, not as a tormentor, but as a reminder. A reminder that some things are priceless, and some chances don't come twice. I've learned that true transformation isn't about how the world sees you, but how you see yourself, and how you hold the people who love you along the way. Vanity blinded me. It led me away from love, from loyalty, from the quiet strength of a bond that withstands change and hardship. Now, I live with that pain every day. It's a shadow, but also a guide. It teaches me to choose differently, to cherish what matters over what dazzles, to seek depth over surface. Will I ever stop loving him? I don't know. Part of me hopes that maybe, in another life or another time, things could be different. Maybe then I'll be the woman he deserves, steadfast, humble, true. But for now, I carry this love quietly in my heart. Not as a weight, but as a lesson. This journey, from insecurity to confidence, from hope to heartbreak, from vanity to humility, has reshaped me in ways I never wanted to face but now understand I needed. Sometimes growth means loss. Sometimes the hardest lessons come wrapped in the pain of what we let go. And maybe that's the most honest love story of all, the one where we learn to love ourselves, even if it means loving someone else from afar. I was wrong to leave. And I'll live with that truth. But I'll also live with the hope that one day, I'll find peace, inside myself, with or without him. This is my story. A story of love lost, lessons learned, and the quiet hope for healing.